Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Lucky to have our Monday morning guy, Jeff Kerr, joining us. JK, here's where I want to start with you. Is Matt Patricia going to be the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons this year?
That's assuming Bill Belichick's going to get hired as head coach.
Yes. Which, by the way, that's the only interview Belichick has taken. In an offseason, which most teams ended 2 weeks ago, last week, there's been about 4,672 interviews for head coaching positions in the NFL. I never remember guys just like they got them on a conveyor belt coming in and out of teams.
Same guys too, by the way.
Yeah, just
same
get on a plane,
group.
go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And Belichick's had one interview, Atlanta. That's it. What does that tell you?
What upset me when I was in Baltimore this weekend, we were talking about this, and a lot of people were getting on Arthur Blank about why does he need to interview Bill Belichick one time, yet alone 2 times? I'm like, you guys do know the guy's 84 and 103 without a certain quarterback, right? And Jim Harbaugh's available. So right now, I'd rather have Jim Harbaugh than Bill Belichick as my head coach. So
there's a lot of Bill Belichick hate going on. And I'm just amazed that, no offense to some of these candidates, but yeah, I think there's a little ageism involved as well, because we've got two coaches hired, and it's probably not even fair to point them out because Antonio Pierce obviously was the interim coach with the Raiders, and Gerard Mayo's been the long time plan in New England to take over for Bill Belichick. But yeah, we're talking about teams that fired Arthur Smith and Brandon Staley. This is the greatest coach of all time.
Yeah, Bill Belichick is a massive upgrade. I agree. You know what, John? I was thinking about that. I thought the Chargers would be a perfect fit for him, but he's never coached west of Cleveland.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a West Coast guy, but and maybe it is time, by the way. Maybe it is time. I don't know how old. Bill's like 70, 71, somewhere in that range. Maybe it is time for him to walk away. And the game has changed drastically. But yeah, the biggest problem I have with the NFL, every hiring cycle, not just this one, same guys. Just as I said, everybody's working off the same list. Where is the Eagles, ironically, have had some success going off the list in the past. Andy Reid, most notably. Andy Reid was on nobody's radar back in '99. People forget that. And Nick Sirianni was basically on nobody's radar in 2021. Now everybody wants him fired now, so maybe that's a bad example. But everybody's working off the same damn list, Jeff. Where's the...
Why do people want Dan Quinn so much? He was a bad head coach the first time around. Now you want to hire him again after that collapse? Now Dallas's defense was just as bad as the Eagles the last 5-6 weeks of the season.
Atlanta's interviewed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys. 14 guys. Joe Brady, Brian. Let me run them down. Joe Brady, Brian Callahan, Belichick, Aaron Glenn, Jim Harbaugh, Ben Johnson, Brian Johnson, Ejiro Evero, Mike McDonald, Raheem Morris, Antonio Pierce, who's obviously in law, Bobby Slowick, Anthony Weaver, a little bit outside the box there, but that's a Rooney Rule candidate, Steve Wilkes.
But it's not a Rooney Rule candidate because once you've already done interviews with 5 other minority candidates, which one is the Rooney Rule candidate? You have to do an in-person interview. So you have to do 2 in-person interviews. Did Brian
interviews.
Johnson make it down there in person, or was he?
I do not believe he has yet.
Brian's
been all virtual,
right?
Yeah, all virtual. All 3 have been virtual. So he hasn't done a Rooney Rule. For all the people that say Brian's a Rooney Rule, he hasn't done a Rooney Rule interview because you have to go in person to satisfy that.
So let me ask you a question on that. And I know we're getting off topic, but if you're a candidate and a team calls you and you're of minority persuasion and they say, we want you to come in, we don't want to do a virtual interview with you, do you tell them, no, I'm not coming in because that makes me a Rooney Rule candidate? Or do you show up and go, all right, yeah,
well,
feel
first of
free to
all,
use me to fulfill some kind of obligation?
First of all, I believe they changed the rules, so the first interviews have to be virtual. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. The hat tip to Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford. They changed the rules this year because of what went on. So that the virtual first interview is not an issue. I talked to Leslie Frazier about that when he was the Rooney Rule candidate. And I asked him, I go, how do you approach these things? So because some people, I remember at the time, it was Tony Sperano, rest his soul, and everybody knew Bill Parcells was going to hire him, and he was kind of he was a Parcells guy, and Leslie was the Rooney Rule candidate basically, and everybody knew, but he had to jump through the hoops. And at the time, you only had to interview one. And I asked Leslie about it, and he said, yeah, I mean, it's a typical decision. On one hand, you get your name out there, you become well known, you become on people's radars, and the other, you say this is insulting. It's up to the individual. It really is. And in Leslie's case, he eventually became a head coach with the Vikings, but yeah, I mean, it's up to the individual. Like, certainly guys see through it, no doubt about it.
John, speaking of Les, do you think he has a chance to be the Eagles defensive coordinator?
Who?
Leslie Frazier.
No, I haven't heard his name. They seem to be more into, I think they want a veteran guy. Here's the problem too with what they're doing.
Leslie Frazier would certainly be a veteran guy.
And that's why I'm thinking about it. As Jeff, I hadn't thought about Leslie's name. I haven't heard his name, but they have Diana Rossini's already put out Wink Martindale and
Ryan Nielsen.
Ryan Nielsen. So I think they're trying to go more the veteran proven routes. But first of all, buyer beware on Wink. I mean, he'd be the official defensive coordinator candidate of the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. If they could sponsor it, it would be Wink Martindale. But, he got in trouble with Harbaugh. He got in trouble with Dayball. I mean, he's a guy who's going to be a pain in the what. So I would say buyer beware on him. But as far as the veteran part of it, look, the Eagles are a tough sell if you have options. And by that, I mean, it certainly looks to the outside world, and I'm not talking about the fans or media, but I'm talking about the industry, that Nick Sirianni, the clock has started on Nick Sirianni. And a lot of people are going to look at him as a lame duck if he's not successful next year. And remember, successful in Philadelphia is a little bit different than everywhere else because you got to reach these massive expectations. So guys are going to say, if I got options, where am I going to go to Philadelphia to be one and done? So they might have to go for a less in-demand candidate, but it remains to be seen. They could do worse than Leslie Frazier, but I haven't heard his name to this point. I was thinking the Georgia defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Glenn Schumann. They interviewed him last year, and they got to build this defense around Carter and Davis. Now, maybe he doesn't have a good relationship with Carter and Davis, but I assume he does because they had so much success. And he's a young coach who would be a first-time coordinator. That might make some sense. But they got to fix it. I know that. And my one piece of advice to Nick Sirianni: hire a coach. Don't hire a scheme. Don't hire a damn scheme. Yeah.
Hire somebody.
Don't go after Vic Fangio type scheme. Yeah.
Hire somebody who's going to get in the building, look at what he has, and develop around those particular players.
Here's where I'll tell you why I'd pass on Schumann. We just had an example of hiring someone with an existing relationship with a key player, and Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts didn't work for me. So I just watched that offense go backwards this year because, Brian and Jalen know each other, quarterback coach and now coordinator.
Well, I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm saying that's, it's a little bit of a check.
It would be the only reason for me not to hire the guy. that you just watch it blow up in your face here. Why would you want to go back down that road again? If you're going to go to the college level, I try and go get Minter, who also interviewed for the job last year. They chose not to give it to him, same as Schumann. So if you worry about, well, you turned him down once, why are you offering me the job now? He's the guy I would prefer from a college level over the Georgia guy. Just
well, yeah, similar to personnel, I would say don't scout the helmet. If Brian failed, doesn't mean Glenn would fail. But you got to interview the guy. That's why you interview guys. And said, if he comes in and he's a bad coach, I don't know. If he's I'm not saying hire him. I'm saying maybe it makes some sense because of what they look for. If they like the guy, they might not even like him.
Do they own up and say, Denard Wilson, come on down?
Well, no.
We gotta remember who we're talking about here.
But they should have hired Denard. That I think that's pretty clear. Yeah.
Well, why would you say they can't revisit?
Well, they could, but I just don't think they will.
They brought Schumann in last year for an interview for the defense coordinator position. Said thank you, no. So you want to revisit that one, but you don't want to revisit Denard Wilson?
Well, there's a big difference. Denard was here. Denard was an employee of the organization. Denard was publicly backed by numerous players in that defensive back room. It wasn't just Slay, though. Schumann's coming in as a college guy. He's like, thanks for the interview. I mean, he's happy to be here. Denard Wilson is a part of the organ. And you said, you know what? You're not good enough. We're going to go in a different direction. Plus, there's a lot of hubris in this organization. And the first thing they're going to, people are already saying you made a big mistake by passing over Denard Wilson. And they did, by the way. He's in Baltimore, where Jeff Kerr was. And by the way, that team's stinking impressive, Jeff.
Yeah. I was going to ask you this, John. Who runs their organization better? The Eagles or the Ravens?
Ravens.
Yeah, easily Ravens. It's funny. I saw Denard Wilson in the locker room on Saturday. I didn't get a chance to talk to him because, coaches were – the coaches walk past the media. It's a quick in and out. But, I waved to him. We waved back. It was, I don't know if you remember me or not from last year, but, it's – I'm thinking to myself from the Seinfeld episode with the Jimmy. I'm like, there's the guy. There's the guy who should have been the Eagles defensive coordinator.
And he would have, and by the way, I said Jonathan Gannon, Denard Wilson, insert names. It could have been Schumann, could have been Minter. They weren't going to be as good as they were in 2022 on defense because of the personnel issues. So that's part of it too. Would have they been better with Denard Wilson? I think so.
I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson might have been back with Denard Wilson.
Yeah, maybe. Although I think it was about money for C.J.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah. You know what, though? They do miss his swagger. On that
he misses his playmaking ability, and he got hurt. He didn't play most of the season. He got an interception. Every time he's out there, gets an interception. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to say it was obviously an overthrown or tip ball. I forget exactly. It wasn't like a great
it was a tip ball.
Yeah, it was a tip ball. But he just makes plays. And they don't have that in their secondary.
I just love it. I just loved what he did, too. It's like, okay, I packed up my dog. I'm just going to go hand the ball to Baker Mayfield. The guy shows no fear. You got to love that.
Yeah, he's very confident in himself, and the Eagles missed him, and that was a mistake. But that's why I bring up the Howie Roseman personnel part. And I get it. We're all talking about coaches. That's the big story because they finally moved on from Sean Desai. Boy, why did they keep him here? Why?
I don't get it. It's, when I said in the CBS room last night, oh, I'm going to write up the Eagles firing Sean Desai, my boss literally goes, they didn't fire him yet? So what does that tell you about what they're doing over there? And he goes, they're not keeping Matt Patricia. And I said, no, he's gone too. But
yeah, he's out of contract. That means they signed Matt to a 1-year contract. And they probably did the same for Marcus Brady for those senior positions.
John, did you love Tom Pelisseri's report? It's almost like his agent took the phone and just typed it for him.
But God bless these guys. Same thing with Ian's, by the way, because Ian was the first to report Sean Desai, and I'll bring it up. You guys keep talking. I got to bring it up. If these guys, there's a price to pay for being a Mike Sealski trademark information broker, and you saw that price yesterday. I'll just say that
you are in part kind of dictated to report things in certain ways if you want to stay on that information highway. I agree with you on that one, John. You got it, or can I ask?
I'm trying to get it. Go ahead, ask.
All right. Let's make you, since we're talking about agent speak, let's make you Brian Johnson's agent. Why the hell should you keep your job?
Oh, that's $1 million question there, Jody. I think I would say the head coach is a moron, and this is his offense, and
head coach is still working.
I know.
Don't look at me. Look at the idiot that you just decided to keep as your head coach. That's going to do real well for you, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. It's got one foot out the door. That's what it's telling you, and I still say
hold on. Do you think Johnson wants out? I know if he's offered a head coaching job, he's probably going to take it. I'll bet good money right here, right now, he's not offered a head coaching job, despite the fact that he's done a couple interviews. Do you think he wants out?
I think he wants out of this mess. If he's the offensive coordinator and he can't run his vision, and you're seeing the results, another year of
what
this
is
disaster.
His vision? What's Brian Johnson's vision? I didn't get that email or memo or whatever. I don't quite know what Brian Johnson's vision is. What did they not do this year that Brian Johnson wanted to do and would have been outstanding at executing it?
Hey, this is the only guy who I know that made Kadarius Toney a good football player. It's the only guy I know.
It's claim to fame, huh?
Yeah, and Kyle Pitts all of a sudden can't get open anymore. So you would have to think the concepts he's running at Florida would translate to Philly, and I did not see any of that Florida offense when I was rewatching some Eagles games this past week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the part. That's the problem. You kind of know, you don't know what his vision is, but I can say he's very, and I've said pretty consistently, he's very well regarded around the league. So the rest of the league isn't on the.
You know who else was very well regarded around the league?
Dan Quinn.
Not, and he's a veteran guy. At least he's had time to do it. Mr. Staley in Los Angeles, very well regarded. Everybody was.
I mean,
that work out.
Arthur Smith. I mean, that's. Yeah. But a lot of people have said, a lot of fans have asked, why Brian keeps getting interviews and after the performance, and I said, well, they think he's better than you do. It's simple. They might be wrong, but that's what they think. Now, here's what Ian said.
Just remember, John, this is the same fan base that I'm not saying a lot of fans think this, but there are some fans like Al might mention. Andy Reid's a terrible football coach.
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time. But getting back to the Ian. So Ian broke the story. Eagles coach Nick Sirianni is like a defensive coordinator Sean Desai. His last sentence was, Desai is likely to be in the mix for other DC opportunities.
Where? That's all I was said. Where?
Yeah, and obviously Tom did essentially the same thing for Matt Patricia, which, to get the information, you have to do what the agent wants, and they want to. Now, I don't think who the agents think they're fooling either, because nobody's going to. Oh boy, Sean Desai is going to be in the mix for other.
Yeah, I'll run it right to hire Sean Desai. Yeah. Let me tell you.
So
I got fired after 14 games.
It's kind of funny, but
what owner is calling his general manager going, wait, I just read Sean Desai is going to be a heavy cat. How is he not on our list? Yeah, not happening. Stop, please.
Yeah, but ridiculous. It's part of the game those guys have to deal with, and they do it. And I saw our buddy Jimmy Kempski. Just was laughing. Pelissera's Patricia took on play calling last month under difficult circumstances, running someone else's scheme with a depleted unit. Quote, he'll be a top DC candidate.
For who?
It's great.
All right, so let me put both of you guys. Let me put both you guys to the test. And I know the answer is already ahead of time. Neither, but I'm telling you, it can't be neither. It's got to be one of the two. Who's got a bad chance to get a DC spot, Desai or Patricia?
Patricia.
Oh, Patricia. Yeah. I mean, well,
I
first,
take the side.
if Bill gets a job, I mean,
Even knowing Belichick may hand him the job, which, oh, by the way, Belichick had him running the offense last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the love between
well,
Patricia
yeah,
and Belichick is the same as it used to be.
my better, it should be a job. My better indication would be Bill might give him a job because Lord knows what he'd do. But I still think Patricia. I mean, yeah, Sean took a big hit, and it's the Eagles' fault, and I don't think it's fair. I think he wasn't doing a horrible job. I've said pretty consistently he had to learn. Sure, he had to learn on the job. I think he was done dirty by the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think he's a bad coach. He's a very smart guy.
They panicked with Sean's side,
but they hurt his reputation as well. They did damage to that poor guy. They really did. It was, yeah.
And
it seems like
all the other general managers out there, let me just give you a quick tutorial. They got worse when they replaced him. As bad as he may have been, they got worse when they replaced him with a guy who was a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. So you tell me, what was the problem? Sean Desai or the talent on defense?
The talent.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I still, what frustrates me about the whole thing is I'm like, oh, is Hassan Reddick going to get to the quarterback more? Is Josh Sweat going to get to the quarterback more? Or I mean, John, you were with me on Wednesday. Jordan Davis, look how tired he said he was at the end of the season.
Yeah.
He admitted his body was banged up.
Well, everybody's banged up. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and a lot of people bring up Jordan conditioning. He's in pretty good shape for a 350-pound guy, but
a lot better shape than last year.
There's a difference between, being able to go 800 snaps and whatever he was at, five something, and he's got to get to that level, whatever it takes. Can he get there? I don't know. We'll see. But that's a big part of the Eagles offseason. Jalen Carter as well. Those guys are going to have to play more, no matter who the defensive coordinator is. But you were in Baltimore, Jeff, so we want to ask you, I mean, that was a really impressive performance, kind of took over, Houston hung in for a little bit, but then they kind of took over. I think Baltimore was the most impressive team as a whole over divisional playoff weekend. Who do you think was the most impressive team?
I was impressed with Baltimore too. And my big story from that game was, I swear I was the only one who wanted to know what Lamar Jackson said to that team at halftime. I think Sal Powell might have been the other one, but I must have asked about 15, 20 players. I got the same variation, and I was just hoping for, I'm like, can I get the swearing? I don't need what he said. And a couple players said, oh, he swore all right. He came in there, he was cursing up a storm, just going nuts, and said, guys, basically, we're effing better than this. This team does not belong on the same field as us. And it's amazing what happens when a team can gravitate toward one football player who is the MVP of the league, who knows he's good, and right away what they were able to do to beat that blitz was, okay, first off, we're going to have Lamar run, and he did that. Okay, now we're going to do the short quick passes. Okay, and again, this is what a lot of Eagles fans were like, well, they ran the ball. Yeah, they ran the ball after they threw the ball to take the lead. Then they ran the ball because they wore Houston's defense out. And look, I was completely impressed with them on defense. To hold CJ Stroud to 3 points, to take away the deep pass from CJ Stroud. By the way, he still got his licks in. And
I'm so impressed by CJ Stroud. It's hard to say
good.
in a what was the final?
34-10.
Yep. 34-10.
7 points came on a punt return.
Yeah,
I'm still so impressed. He's so calm and so collected for a rookie player. He's more calm and he's got more composure than 90% of veteran quarterback. It's crazy.
I love what Stroud basically said after that game. No, I expected to win this game. I just like the mentality he has and how he's not satisfied. And he said, really, only one team satisfied at the end of the season. We want to be that one team. And you got to give credit to DeMeco Ryans too, Bobby Sloway. I mean, CJ Stroud already had that built in the system at Ohio State, but to have those two leading you.
Yeah. And by the way, the two losing teams, I'm so impressed with Stroud and Jordan Love. I mean, Houston and Green Bay, they lost, but They should be very excited about their respective futures.
And Green Bay's really young too. As
the youngest team in the league.
Jordan Love is like a grizzled veteran compared to the
Yeah,
guys he's throwing the football to.
He Brett Favre did at the end, though. Boy,
Yeah,
that
he
was
did.
a Brett Favre throw.
That bad decision, bad attempt. All right, last one for me, Jeff Kerr, is this is all important. Is Jim Bob Cooter the answer? His name got floated around this week as a potential offensive consultant. The consultant thing hasn't really worked for the Eagles, but that's a whole nother topic for another time. Is Jim Bob Cooter coming in to fix the offense, Jeff Kerr?
No. I know players that like him and have defended him because the Lions were bad those couple years he was their offensive coordinator, but no, this has Rick Scangarello written all over it with the whole consultant
Rick
thing.
Scangarella. Yeah, baby.
I am not a fan of that. Look, again, why are you putting your head coach in this situation? You're making him a lame duck head coach. It's just, it just feels like Doug's final year all over again. Didn't they learn?
It does. And that's my concern about the coaching searches. Like, guys are going to realize that unless Jeffrey comes out at some point and emphatically states, and I don't even know if that works because it's more about actions than words at this stage, and it's pretty clear. Like, it was weird. Even as I said, Ian broke the report, and a bunch of us confirmed it, and it was made very clear to us that this was a Nick Sirianni decision. And I'm like, why are they emphasizing that this is a Nick Sirianni decision? The only thing I can come up, well, there's a couple reasons. One, they want to highlight to other people that, oh, Nick's making the decisions. He's not a lame duck. He's back. And the other is, oh, if we fire Nick Sirianni, we could say Nick's been doing this. He's been roguing while I'm thinking. It's bizarre the way they handle these things. And it does have a Doug Peterson tint to it. It really does.
It's honestly, it just sucks. Like, if you're a fan of the franchise, it just completely sucks. You might have to go through this all over again. And I just love how people were slamming our buddy Ed Kratz on Saturday, which I thought was a really good tweet about Harbaugh. This is the result of being patient with him. And fans were like, oh, 11 years between AFC championship games, that's pretty embarrassing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, the Ravens win like every single year. You guys know this, right? Like, they're bad year, and they're like, oh, Harbaugh's never had a collapse like Nick did. I'm like, you just had one 2 years ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The expectations derailed this team. It is crazy. And it's not just Philadelphia. It's more pronounced in Philadelphia. And I do blame Sam Hinkie. We got this whole generation that is championship or nothing. Nothing else matters. Nothing. Playoff appearances.
Talk to my dad, who was 4 when the Eagles won the championship in 1960.
You got people crying in Detroit because they won a playoff game.
Exactly. It's like my dad always jokes, you're not a true Eagles fan until you watch 16 years of no playoffs. Nothing. Yeah. And he said, you guys are so spoiled. The fan base today is so spoiled. Like, he takes a playoff berth. He don't even give a crap. It's just based on what he grew up with. But it is what it is. And I know there are probably a lot of longtime Eagles listeners who they're satisfied with their Super Bowl. I mean, obviously you want more because everybody wants more in life. But look, the Lions didn't win 2 playoff games in a season. This is the first time since 1957 was the last time they won 2 playoff games.
One.
2.
Gotcha.
2. Dan Campbell is second all time in playoff wins. Dan Campbell. Toad Monroe was the Lions quarterback the last time they won 2 playoff games in a season.
Good for Dan Campbell. All right, Jeff Kerr, are you going to be in Baltimore next week? Or
yeah. I cannot wait for that.
You're heading back down to Baltimore. Hopefully we can get you back on with us next Monday as well. JK, thanks for jumping in.
Absolutely. Hey, guys, what happens if I see Taylor Swift or Jason Kelce next week?
How about Kelce? Yeah, man. They're shirtless going, he looks like a retired guy.
Yeah, he looked really retired this week.
Bowling balls with the Bills Mafia. And
in fairness, though, he does that even when he's active.
Well, that's true. It is Jason Kelsey. Yeah, but he got some Taylor Swift time.
He set new heights this weekend. With the that's the enemy. And I know they're not the Eagles' enemy, but he's supposed to be there for his brother. He's drinking with the enemy and got his shirt off and climbing in and out of boxes. I'm sorry. He's taking his game to another level.
By the way, he showed his athleticism jumping in and out of the box.
By the way, you know what? It's been 12 years now. I should be over this, and I'm not. The Eagles getting rid of Andy Reid. I know it was time. I understand that. But literally, Jason Kelsey was the guy who told Andy Reid to draft his brother. What is that? I mean, I'll tell you what. Andy Reid, I don't know why. I don't agree with Florio at all. There's no reason Andy Reid should ever retire with that team he's got.
Not as long as Patrick's there. When Patrick goes, I'm retiring.
Yeah, then
that's
enough. I'll see you guys later.
Hey, look, Andy Reid's won without Mahomes. So I still say that's what Bill Belichick's facing. The whole "I can win without Tom Brady to shut Jeff Kerr up" theory.
Yeah, well, possibly. Plus, he also wants the record.
Yeah, what was he? 15 away?
15,
something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Andy Reid might catch him at this rate.
At least, well,
he's got a while, but.
Jeff Kerr, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next Monday. Jeff Kerr, CBSSports.com, here with us on Birds 365. All right, run a little late. About 20 minutes from now, we're going to have on one of the better national writers in the country. I haven't had him on Birds 365 in 6 months. I hadn't realized we hadn't talked to him since like August. Jason Cole, longtime NFL columnist, Hall of Fame selector, will be jumping on with us in about 20 minutes. When we come back, I still got a couple more questions for John on the fact that it looks like the offense coordinator is going to stay in place. What happens to the rest of the coaching staff? How is that figured out underneath Brian Johnson if he's going to stay as the OC? More Birds 365 coming your way next.